This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore! Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
All right, everybody. Well, bit of a different episode this week in terms of the mailbag. This is the SmackDown review. Amanda will be giving that in just a minute. I'll be putting that here into your ears in just a couple of minutes. But I want to just let you know, I was originally going to do the mailbag, and then I realized, well, SmackDown was early this week, which I totally forgot. I just put out a couple more episodes. I don't want to overload the feed a bit, so I'm going to be doing a combined mailbag and a weekend review on Sunday. So a huge episode coming Sunday, probably well over an hour for sure, after I give my thoughts on this week and hear your emails and respond to your voicemails. But the good news is it gives you extra time to send in your voicemails or your emails if you want me to respond to them for the mailbag / weekend review on Sunday. So that'll be coming to you Sunday evening. As I speak, it is Friday evening, so just a couple days, but you'll have your SmackDown review right now from Amanda in the UK. I hope you enjoy it. I'll give my thoughts on SmackDown, of course, on Sunday, along with a wrap-up of Raw, and as we are about 1 month from WrestleMania, things are heating up, and we're going to get to hear from John Cena for the first time, or if you already did, then I'm sure it was quite entertaining. So that's it. I will be back on Sunday. Send your voicemails and your emails to me, mailbag@wwepodcast.com, or call us. The email or that number is in the show notes of all the mailbags. So, everybody, here comes Amanda, and I'll talk to y'all soon.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, hello, whatever time it is with you and wherever you are. Thank you for downloading this SmackDown review as part of the WWE podcast. As always, it's an absolute pleasure to have you listening along once again. I am Amanda, your host of the SmackDown review. Well, this is nice to have watched SmackDown and have the review all done and sent to Matt before the wee small hours. As I'm recording this, it's 10:05 in the evening, which means I should all be wrapped up by 11 o'clock, which is a nice change. So hurrah for the European tour. So Raw from Madison Square Gardens was pretty cool this week. The Punk-Seth match was awesome and a Roman return. So what do you guys think? Are we setting up for a Seth-Roman match at Mania? Is it a triple threat including Punk, or is Punk set for his own match? What's the deal with Heyman? What's the favour? What's going on? All very interesting and a really exciting build this year. So let's just jump straight in, get to it and review the SmackDown that aired on March the 14th from Barcelona in Spain. First things first, the crowd are absolutely off the chart this evening. They are noisy, they are singing, absolutely brilliant. So as we see our arrivals this evening, we've got Cody arrive. He's on Miz TV tonight, and he's followed by Gunther. And then we have Mello, who is going to be facing Randy later. And of course, we've got the Street Profits versus DIY for the tag titles as well. And as a nice surprise, we've also got Heyman here. So we're going to hear from him, hopefully, get some more gossip on what the deal with Roman Punk Seth is. First up tonight, we've got LA Knight, our new US champ, and we get a reminder of last week's championship win for him. Now, I heard on another podcast this week that Shinsuke dropped the belt because his brother died. If that's the case, then that's really sad. I haven't looked into it any more because obviously it's not my business, but I just heard it on another podcast. So Wade and Joe Test come on comms saying that they may need their mics turned up tonight because the crowd are so loud, and they really are. Knight says right now, and he speaks in Spanish. They absolutely love him, love that. He says they're all part of history, He says he might be the US champ, but he is worldwide. He says it was way too long that he was without the championship, and now it's back to where it belongs. He is interrupted by Big Jimmy Uso, and he says he isn't out at the ring this evening to congratulate Knight. He's out here to tell him that he's desperate and he has no clear way to Mania, and he says he's challenging him right here tonight in Barcelona. Jimmy is then interrupted by Solo, who says the only person who deserves a shot at the US title is Fatu. He tells Jimmy that he's the family failure and that he should graciously step aside. Jimmy tells Solo the biggest failure of his life was believing in him, as in Solo, which I thought was a pretty nice line. And then, a little predictably, as per usual, the numbers game starts to pay off as the three of them, so Solo, Fatu and Tonga, start beating down on Jimmy and Knight. But thankfully Strowman's music hits and he comes out to even things up. Three of them, Strowman, Knight and Uso, clear the ring, and then we get Nick Aldis come out and he sets up a 6-man tag, and it starts right now, Teddy Long style. And as we kick off with Jimmy and Solo in the ring, and Solo is battering Jimmy at first, and the crowd are chanting OTC, which seems to be getting to Solo quite a bit. Jimmy gets an upper hand briefly, but Solo hits the spinning Solo, and we get Fatu in, who gets an absolutely brilliant reception. They're not going to be able to keep him as a heel for much longer, I think. A quick tag to Tonga, and we've got Jimmy isolated and in trouble, with the heels making quick tags in and out. Finally, Jimmy gets the tag to Knight, who hits a neck breaker on Fatu, and a DDT getting a close pin. Knight with a lovely leaping, jumping elbow on Fatu, and looks for the BFT but fails to get it, as the momentum shifts once again over to Fatu, who gets the tag to Tonga. We've then got Solo back in with Knight, and almost forgot Strowman's in this match. We haven't seen sight nor sound of him tonight so far. Knight continues to get beat down, and he manages though to get out of the way of one of those brutal looking hip attacks and gets on the offense looking for the tag. Finally he gets it, and Strowman is in, and he is like a wrecking ball taking out everybody. He lines up his Strowman Express on the outside, and he takes them all out. We then get Jimmy and Knight both flying from the inside to the outside, taking out Fatu and Solo. Strowman hits his running power slam on Tonga and gets the cover and the win. But no sooner is the match over on the faces with the win, we get Solo popping back up, tries to blindside Strowman. We then get Fatu into the ring, who starts to beat down Strowman, hitting a total of 3 moonsaults in a row, which is quite impressive for a man of that size. So this is a nice, fun match to start things off tonight. Tonga taking the pin, leaving Fatu still looking so strong, and Solo pretty much a non-entity here. It will be fun to see how the US title picture pans out after this. Knight versus Fatu at Mania would be cool, but I don't think the Strowman angle is done after Fatu completely decimated him after the match. We now get a reminder of the situation between Naomi, Jade and Bianca, followed by a sit down with Jade in the empty stadium, which I always think is a pretty cool look for an interview. So Kathy Kelly asks her how she is and where she is mentally. Jade says that physically she's fine, but after seeing Naomi cry about her problems, she says she doesn't need anyone to help her get where she's going, aka Bianca. Kathy asked Jade how she knew it was Naomi and why she didn't tell anybody at WWE sooner that it was Naomi. Jade says that she saw her run away before she passed out. She then goes on to say that to see Bianca tag with Naomi was so hard, like as if nothing had happened. Then Liv and Raquel walk by and basically start heckling the interview. And the outcome of that is that we get a match next week, which will be Jade versus Liv. So I thought this was nice. The interview with Jade was good. A bit of a bummer that Liv interrupted the interview when she did. It felt like it was just getting good. Sounds like Jade definitely has a problem with Bianca too for tagging with Naomi like nothing happened. It'll be good to see Jade versus Liv. Guessing it'll be Raquel who makes the difference in that one. But still will be a good fun match, something different to see. So we now move straight into the match between B-Fab and Charlotte. B-Fab cuts a promo on Charlotte on her way to the ring, saying that she intends to start building her own legacy, and that starts tonight with Charlotte. Now this time, for the first time I think ever, B-Fab gets a full-on proper entrance with her full theme tune, which is nice. And then we get Charlotte with her usual long and slow entrance. And as we get started with this match, the difference in size doesn't actually look too much. B-Fab measures up to Charlotte pretty well. I don't know if I'd imagined it or whether B-Fab has beefed up recently. But in my head, I had thought that B-Fab was significantly less muscly than Charlotte. But as they squared up to each other tonight, that certainly wasn't the case. So Charlotte with the early going, delivering flare chops to B-Fab. But finally, B-Fab gets in some offense, launching Charlotte from the ring. But Charlotte doesn't let that last for long. The crowd chanting Tiffy time, and Charlotte gives the crowd the middle finger, which just eggs the crowd on more to boo Charlotte. And she seems to be absolutely buzzing off it. They're now chanting F you, Charlotte. We then get Charlotte with a series of moves on the mat, which to be fair was pretty impressive, but Charlotte spends a bit too much time showboating and winding the crowd up, allowing B-Fab to get in a few moves and punches, etc. on Charlotte. B-Fab delivers a massive kick, seemingly catching Charlotte off guard, and gets a close cover. Charlotte hits natural selection and looks for the figure eight, causing B-Fab to submit, and the crowd absolutely hate it. Charlotte refuses to release the leg lock despite the bell ringing 3 times, which seems to bring out Tiffy, and the crowd go absolutely mental when they hear that it's Tiffy time. And we get Charlotte and Tiffy getting into it in the ring, which is an understatement. This brawl went on forever. Security and officials try to break them up, with Tiffy get the upper hand in the brawl until Charlotte comes down from the announce desk. They just can't be stopped. This is better action than what was in the actual match, which is no disrespect to B-Fab. The match itself, well, not a great match. Definitely heard some shot calling from Charlotte, which is disappointing. A few botches, particularly with one of B-Fab's kicks, which actually didn't hit Charlotte at all. But it was okay. Good to see B-Fab get some singles action. Interesting how much the crowd really, really hate Charlotte. It seems worse in Europe than it is when they're at home in the US. We then get a Drew promo, and he goes through all the times he says that he's been screwed in the last while, and tries to basically pin it all on Damien, saying that it was always been him who has profited from Drew getting screwed. He says Damien now has his attention, and he is going to put him down for good. Now we've got Miz TV. Yay. Not one of my favourite segments. I thought this had died a death, but apparently it still lives. And he is going to be interviewing Cody, apparently, so maybe it might be quite good. Before that starts, and just as Miz starts to talk to the crowd in Spanish, we get Tiffy and Charlotte come out again. They're still going at it on the ramp. Wow, this match is going to be absolutely brilliant at Mania. Tess says we have a blonde bash in Barcelona, which I just thought eye roll. for goodness sake. You wouldn't say that if it was two blonde blokes. I don't know why they insist. Anyway, let's not go down that rabbit hole. We get a wicked move, though, where Tiffy goes up on the very top of the giant TV screen and jumps off, taking out everyone. Just, wow. Can't wait to see these two go at it at Mania. Don't know how they're going to top that tonight. It was pretty cool. So now actually to Miz TV. He says Cody should have took his advice, but instead he got beat up by two great rappers, Travis Scott and John Cena, which got quite a good laugh from the crowd. And again, the crowd go absolutely nuts as Cody's music hits. Does his normal entrance, but as he gets to the ring, Miz cuts off the music, saying he doesn't have time for this, which Cody takes exception to, gets into the ring, punches him, delivers Crossroad, and says he doesn't want to talk to the Miz. He doesn't want to talk to anyone. He just wants to talk to John Cena. He says to Cena, if you can find the time, he will see him at Raw next week. And Cody, shout out to his wicked t-shirt that he had on. He had a very cool Barcelona Nightmare t-shirt on, which I bet was selling like hotcakes on the merch stand. We go backstage and we get Shinsuke talking to Nick, asking him for a rematch. Priest comes along and asks where Drew is. Nick says he's left the arena, he's gone home. And Shinsuke starts chopping off. Priest says he doesn't understand what he just says, but he's looking for a fight tonight and he wants to fight Shinsuke. Aldous makes the match, and that's coming up right now. The crowd are absolutely loving Damien as he plays it up big time to the crowd as he comes out. On the other hand, they do seem a little bit cooler for Shinsuke. It's a fairly slow start as they size each other up. Shinsuke with Priest in the corner, but Priest turns the tables and sends him over the top with a clothesline and a half. Absolutely wallops him. Back in the ring, and Nakamura off the second rope and goes for a sneaky cover, but Priest kicks in pretty much less than one. Priest then, a really cool move, catches Nakamura from midair and hits a face first into the mat chokeslam, or I guess like a reverse chokeslam. I'm not sure what the proper wording is, but it looks sick. Priest in charge now, hits a Falcon Rano, and he follows Nakamura to the outside and tries to put him through the announce desk. We then get Priest hitting old school, so he goes off the ropes and hits a crossbody from the top. He then hits a massive lariat and sets up for South of Heaven, but Drew shows up ringside, putting Priest off. Priest does then manage to hit South of Heaven, but Drew rushes the ring and attacks Priest, forcing the DQ. We then get Shinsuke from behind, hitting Kinshasa on Priest as Drew looks on, and Drew continues the beatdown on Priest as the crowd chant for CM Punk. Drew wallops Priest with the steel steps, leaving him down and out. I think the Priest and Drew is a good story, and clever of WWE to use the events that have happened over the last year or so. Maybe that was set up on purpose, or maybe it's just a happy accident when they've looked at it as something that might be a possibility. Either way, it works. I hope to see these two go at it in a no holds barred or a street fight or something like that, some of those kind of match. At the end of the brawl, Drew tells Priest he has nothing now but screwing him every single week and making his life a living hell. So I think this is great, just seeing Drew descend further and further into complete and utter madness. Backstage now with Kathy Kelly and DIY. She asks them what makes them so sure they will leave Barcelona as champs. Champ says because DIY are top of the mountain and they make everyone else better. Never mind we want the smoke in title matches, it's more like we want to choke, which I thought was a brilliant line. Absolutely love that. We then get the Motor City Machine Guns joining in, and they tell DIY that they haven't forgotten what they did to win the titles. And when they are done, they should be ready to face Motor City Machine Guns. We then move over. We have Piper with Alba and Chelsea. I had only just caught on that they've actually called themselves the Secret Hersis Agents, as in service, but with a her. I only just got that. It's quite funny. Chelsea says that she did what any great leader would have done and got reinforcements. At this point, Zelina rocks up and says she wants a title shot, but Piper tells her that she has to go through her first. So looks like that match is next week. Piper versus Zelina. Should be quite interesting. Now we've got Randy versus Mello, and for this I predict Mello getting mullered here, unless KO appears and scuppers things, obviously, which is always a chance with this program. Randy obviously gets a massive pop, and Mello an equally large boo. Joe Test tells us that every time Mello opens his mouth, he ends up with another huge problem. Ain't that the truth? Mello starts off taking the P, getting the crowd to appreciate Randy. And then Randy starts off the match, tossing Mello around, gets him in the corner, punching him, and outside the ring, drops him through the announce table, or goes to at least. It's pretty much unbreakable these days. But Mello, with a drop toe hold, hangs Randy up on the middle rope, giving Mello an in. As per, though, he spends too much time showboating, but this time he actually manages to stay in charge, getting a 2 count on Randy. Finally, Randy fights back, coming out of the corner with a couple of massive clotheslines and a snap slam. He hits his draping DDT, and we all know what comes next, the RKO, but so does Mello, unfortunately, and he bails, rolls out of the ring. Mello up top, but misses nothing but net as Randy dodges. From the top rope, Randy hits a neck breaker, and Mello is set up for the RKO again. There's a bit of back and forth, but then suddenly from nowhere, Randy hits the RKO and, of course, gets the win. Mello made a good account of himself here, as he usually does. Nothing wrong with him in terms of talent, but he was never a match for Randy. Good match all in, and the crowd were so into it. Randy tries to shake Mello's hand after, but Mello mugs him off, so gets another RKO for his troubles. And he has Mello lined up for the punt, but from nowhere KO pulls Mello out of the ring, and they start to brawl, but KO legs it from Randy, and the feud continues to hot up. It's going to be an absolute barn burner. Can't wait to see Randy versus KO. We've then got Fatu, Tonga and Solo backstage, and Fatu tells Strowman next week they'll have a match, which follows up nicely on their previous encounters and, of course, tonight's slightly mad brawl. And then a weird little vignette. It was only a couple of seconds long. There was a load of smoke, and then the number 4. I don't know what that means. It felt a bit Undertaker-ish. I don't think that's what it was signifying, but it felt a bit hocus pocusy. So let's see who that's for. We now get Gunther in the ring, and he tells us that he's the greatest European wrestler of all time. And of course, he would be here. He only wishes that they were in Madrid. Then he says Hala Madrid, which obviously gets the Barca crowd booing. He says he has a point to prove, so he's here to face a kid who is the best wrestler in Spain, and he's going to prove that means nothing, and he brings out Axiom. Now, I have seen this guy on NXT maybe once or twice. He had a good match with the Hardys this last week, or the week before, I think, on NXT, which was amazing. Joe Tess says that he is the first native Spaniard to be signed by WWE, which I guess makes this a massive night for him and the crowd. We kick off, and every time Axiom gets a hit in, the crowd loses their mind. Gunther misses a couple of big chops, and he looks quite shocked, to be honest, that Axiom is able to stand up to him. Gunther hits a chop and absolutely floors him, though, and he slowed things right down with a couple of submission moves, and finally dumps Axiom out of the ring with a couple more chops. Gunther then goes for the Old Faithful, trying to take the luchador mask off, but this gives Axiom a kick up the arse he needs to find another gear and to take it to Gunther. Axiom gets a close 2 count from nowhere. Gunther hits a flying pterodactyl and a powerbomb. Axiom just kicks out and he goes for a Spanish fly, which is countered, but instead he manages to hit a Hurricanrana instead and covers Gunther for another 2 count. Gunther, with a massive powerbomb and a clothesline, though, gets a very unpopular win over the local guy. They continue to keep Gunther strong, getting another win on the road to Mania. I hope that Jay beats him and gets the title. I'm a bit over Gunther. Next up, we've got Heyman, following a recap of the Raw main event between Seth and Punk. Heyman then says that he's here tonight. He is hyping us up for 2 things. He says that today's Roman Reigns Day because it's the release of the WWE video game. And he says there are some people who have a problem with Roman Reigns being on the cover and also have a problem with it being Roman Reigns Day. He says it isn't CM Punk, nor is it or will it ever be Seth Rollins Day. He says if anyone has a problem, they can say it to the face of the OTC in Bologna, Italy next week, which the crowd just hate. Heyman tells them that they're on a European tour. They can basically get on a cheapo airline, fly to Bologna. Makes a joke about Mussolini. All a bit weird. So, apart from saying that Roman will be in Italy next week, he said the sum total of sweet F all really. Bit weird, bit pointless. Not really sure why Heyman came out. He's usually such a good promo, such a great talker, but he literally said nothing apart from to tell the Spanish crowd that Roman will be in Italy next week. So clearly delighted at that. Anyway, a low point. The matches on next week's show do look pretty good. So we've got Strowman versus Fatu, Jade versus Liv, Piper versus Zelina, plus Roman making a, let's say, rare appearance. So next up, we got the Profits coming out. They cut a promo on the way to the ring saying that all they've heard for years has been noise, but tonight they want to win the titles. Before we get to that match though, Gunther goes to sit down with Jimmy and he says that Axiom tried everything and he left it all out in the ring. He says that's what everyone does with him. He says if Jay doesn't step back and change his mind about facing Gunther, he will have to hurt him. Jimmy says no way, at WrestleMania Jay will walk out as champ. So I'm kind of getting the vibe that Gunther is desperately trying to get Jay to change his mind. I think he doesn't want to face him at WrestleMania. I think he knows there's a good chance that Jay will get the win over him. And I think that's why they're pushing Gunther so hard in this lead up to Mania that he keeps getting a sleeper on him and getting the sneak attack. So I really hope that this is all building up to Jay getting the big one at Mania. So now for tonight's main event, which is Street Profits versus DIY for the tag titles. We kick off with Dawkins and Ciampa, and a reminder that the next up for whoever wins tonight is Pretty Deadly, who are the next number 1 contenders. Dawkins is in charge and tags him forward, some double team moves, and the Profits looking really good early on. Forward from the top lands on Johnny's head, which I think might have been a bit of a botch, but looked pretty awesome. Takes him out, and he takes out Ciampa at ringside. Ciampa's now legal, hits a running knee on Ford, and they have him completely isolated. Ciampa has Ford up on his shoulders from the top rope and gets a 2 count. The crowd have gone a bit quiet, and DIY have really slowed things down here. Ford manages to fight out from Ciampa and really needs to get the tag, which he does, and then Dawkins is in taking Ciampa out. Dawkins on an absolute tear gets a 2 count on Ciampa. Profits hit an awesome double team move and get a really close 2 count. A brilliant sequence of moves sees Profits set up Gargano on Ford's shoulders, who pulls off a Matrix-like move to avoid getting smashed. They finally pull it off, but Ciampa interrupts the pin. Ciampa hits fairy tale ending, but Dawkins kicks. Gargano hits Ciampa with a super kick by mistake as they go for meet in the middle. Ford hits a huge splash from the top and gets the win for the Profits. So we have new tag team titles as the Street Profits. This was an excellent match, as you would completely expect it to be with these two phenomenal teams. Glad to see the Profits get a chance to have another run with a slightly more heely persona. I wouldn't say you could call them full-on heels, but they're certainly not as facey as they once were. They're kind of in the middle. They're a bit dark, but also still kind of cool and likeable. I'm really excited to see them versus Pretty Deadly soon. I do wonder if we're going to get a bit of a hot potato tag belts here as we go from one to the other. Will Pretty Deadly win, and then will Motor City Machine Guns take them back off Pretty Deadly, or are we going to get a nice steady run up to Mania with the Profits holding the belts? But you think potentially the European crowd might want to see some title changes, and I guess the tag titles are probably one of the easier ones to have changed semi-regularly, but maybe not. I thought this show was really good. I know Matt's not mad keen on the European crowds. I think he thinks they're too football-y, because that's how we enjoy our football matches as well. We chant and we sing all the way through. Speaking of which, great win for Spurs in Europe this week. Anyway, but I loved it. I love the European crowds. They're always so up for it. And they just love it. They cheer all the action. I think this European tour is going to be absolutely epic. I think we are off to Brussels in Belgium for Raw on Monday. So I think we're going to get Cena there speaking, and Cody said that he's also going to be there. Then we've got SmackDown, which I think is Bologna in Italy. And then I think at the end of the month, maybe we've got a London show. So they're certainly over here for the long haul. And first one in the books, absolutely loved it. So great job. So guys, that just about does it for this week. As always, thank you for having me in your ears, and until next time, remember, be kind.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.